everybody, it's Carolyn and welcome back to my RV life. You might notice I'm in short sleeves, the sun is shining, and yes, that's desert behind me. I have been heading south. For all of you who keep saying, why aren't you heading south? I've been heading south. I just don't like driving 16 hours in a row. And I like the scenery along the way. I like stopping and experiencing places, and I don't mind a little snow, and I don't mind a little weather, and having to figure out how to insulate my van. For me, that's part of the fun. That's part of the adventure of being out here, is I get to do new and different stuff and survive in different ways every day. That's what makes life exciting for me. So yes, I'm heading south. I am heading to Arizona. I'm going to be at the RTR. That's the cheaprvliving.com Rubber Tramp Rendezvous for those of you who don't know. I am going to be heading down there sometime in January, but between now and then, I'm just kind of wandering. So here I am, about 60 miles outside of Vegas, enjoying a 60-degree day. And a lot of you asked questions about the heater buddy. So I just did the video the other day about how to stay warm in an RV, and tons of you had questions. So I thought I would do another short video today to show you how to set up the heater buddy and to answer some of the questions, especially around safety, that you have all been asking me. So let's start with safety, and then I'll show you how to set it up. First of all, you're absolutely right. The manuals, the law, you're not allowed to keep a propane tank inside your RV. The fact is, we are a litigious nation. That means we like to sue the hell out of each other just because. So because we are a litigious nation, the corporations have to protect themselves. So if one person blows themselves up because they handled a tank incorrectly, or even if there's a slight 1 in a zillion chance that somebody might do it, they have to cover their asses and put warning labels on stuff. So that doesn't mean it's gonna happen. That means that if it does happen, their asses are covered. So we live in a society that kind of thinking snowballs. So we see warning labels and we automatically assume it's dangerous. No, what you should automatically assume is that corporations don't want to lose their asses. So I know you're gonna write me a lot of hate comments about that, but that is my philosophy on how I live my life. So yeah, there might be some danger involved in keeping a tank inside my rig. The things I've heard, other people's experiences, it's extremely rare. And honestly, the chances that this is going to blow up and kill me in my rig are probably much less than me freezing my ass off by not doing it. But let's talk about safety. And I talked about this in my safety tips video for women. While I don't believe that I should be afraid of every little possibility, nano possibility thing happening to me, we still have to take safety precautions. Otherwise, we are that idiot statistic. And the last thing I want to be is an idiot statistic. So how do we make sure when we're doing something that we are keeping safe? One thing is, I did put my tank in a crate. That does make it more stable. When you're driving around, if you're in a rollover or something, you're in an accident and it gets slammed against a wall, it could explode. Temperature, if it gets too hot, that could also make it explode. So you do want to be mindful about these things when you have a propane tank inside your rig. So put it in a crate. It fits perfectly in this crate. I keep it in a corner and it doesn't slide. It's very stable. Another thing, when I'm not using the heater buddy, I turn the valve off. So there's no gas coming between here and here when I'm not using it, especially when I'm traveling. I always make sure I turn the gas off. So that is another safety precaution. The other thing is ventilation. I talked a little bit about how my rig is so drafty, I don't really need to worry about ventilation, but it may not be a bad idea to crack a window, open one of your vents, if that's something that concerns you. It hasn't been a concern for me. I've left it on low. I've slept with it on low all night long. I'm not dead. Just the drafts in the rig alone and the fact that there's no insulation still tells me that it should probably be safe enough. So the other thing that you can do, a lot of people recommend putting the tank outside. You could do that. If you feel safer not having the tank inside your rig, this is a pretty long hose. You could put it outside. One of my one of the people who watched said he puts it through his window, stacks the windows with blankets so the hole is very small and very insulated so you're not getting a lot of draft in. So you can keep this outside and still use the heater inside if that makes you feel safer. Another thing that you can do is tap this directly into the propane tank, the house propane tank in your RV. My ex-husband ran a gas line to our dryer when we bought our house. That scared the crap out of me. I drove like 10 blocks away when he turned the gas on and said, good luck with that. That scares me more than having a propane tank in this inside my rig. But if you get somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and they hook it up wrong, or you try to do it yourself, that could be extremely dangerous on so many levels. So for me, I think it's less of a risk to do this setup. So I think those are all the safety questions that I had that I wanted to address about this. The other thing, let's talk about the CO carbon monoxide alarm. Sorry, I misspoke. It's not CO2, it's carbon monoxide. This, for us boondockers, you need to make sure you get a battery operated one. My very first one I bought had to plug in. Useless, because most of the time my plugs don't work, but this is battery operated. I keep it low because the carbon monoxide sinks to the ground, so you want to make sure it's low to the ground, and you want to test it. You hear that? It works. So that tells me it works. Test it at least weekly, especially when you're running an appliance like this within your rig. So that covers the extra safety tips that maybe I didn't talk about in the first video that a lot of you have brought up. So I wanted to address that because, you know, you do have to take precautions. We're dealing with gas, we're dealing with flammables, so you want to make sure you do as much as you can to remain safe. And warm though, and warm. So I had a little challenge setting this up when I first bought it. So for those of you who have never connected a propane tank before, I wanted to go through that with you to kind of show you some of the things that I learned in how to get it set up, because I got really frustrated out in the cold by myself trying to figure out how to make this stupid thing go together. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the filter. You might be tempted to save yourself 10 bucks because the hose will connect directly to the buddy, and I don't remember anything in the instructions telling me that I needed a filter. But the research that I did, I do actually have to have a filter because I guess these hoses leach particles or rubber or something like that, and it's going to end up clogging your heater buddy, and it will ruin very, very quickly. The filter is going to help prolong the life of your heating buddy, so you do want to get a filter. Mr. Buddy actually makes these hoses. They said Mr. Buddy and the filter. They said Mr. Buddy on them when I bought them, so they're pretty easy to find. I'm going to put links in my description for this video so that you can go there and check it out for yourself very easily and purchase them through Amazon if you want. So let me show you really quickly how to install all of this. Most of it's pretty easy, but there was one step in particular that I struggled with because it was counterintuitive, so that's the step I really want to show you. Made for the green propane bottles like you use for camp stoves and stuff like that. And if you're going to use one of those green bottles, I think they're a pound or something like that of propane, you can connect the green bottle directly to here, and you do not need the filter because you don't have the problem of the rubber in the hose leaching. The first night I had this, when I bought the buddy, I bought 2 of those canisters. I went through my first one in like 4 hours. So I thought I would be able to live on the canisters because honestly, I didn't want a huge propane tank inside my rig because it takes up a lot of room. But 4 hours on one can, that's extremely expensive. What is that, $2, $3 per can? That is extremely expensive, where I think it cost me $8 to fill this whole thing, and it lasts a week and a half. So if you are going to use canisters, go ahead and just connect it directly to your valve here. But if you're going to have the setup like I have, you're going to want to connect the filter first. Very easy. It just screws on just like you would expect it to. Make sure it's on hand tight. Don't over crank it. Don't tighten it too much. You might bust gaskets or seals or something in there. And the last thing you want, of course, is for gas to be leaking. So just hand tighten it. To connect the hose to your heater buddy, you've got two ends here of the hose. This end with the long valve is going to go into your tank. You've got a wheel here to turn it to help tighten it. That's going to go into your tank. The other end here is just your average hose connector. That's going to go into your filter. So just go ahead and screw that in. Very easy, just hand tighten it, screw it in. So for me, the threads don't go all the way in. So if you are tightening it in and it's tight as it can get, and again, don't over tighten, and you still see some thread sticking out, don't panic about that. Mine just doesn't, for some reason, just doesn't go in all the way, but it's tight and I've tested it and it's fine. Okay, so now the other end, this end with the handle and the long connection, goes into your propane tank. This is the one I struggled with for about like 15 minutes. We're used to righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. That is not how you connect a propane tank for some reason. In order to tighten it in, you have to go lefty-tighty and righty-loosey. So don't struggle with it like I did. So this is just going to go into the tank. You can't see that, but just go ahead and tighten it in to the left. And you can use this little black handle so you don't have to hand tighten the nut. This little black handle works really well. And it works perfectly when you go to the left. I literally spent 15 minutes trying to make it work going to the right because righty-tighty. Everybody knows righty-tighty, except propane manufacturers apparently. So go ahead, tighten that up. It's hand tighten it. So that's it. My hose is connected to my propane tank. It's connected to my filter, to my heater buddy. I'm now going to turn on the propane. Now the next thing they recommend that you do is to get a spray bottle of soapy water and spray all your connections. And if you see any bubbles, you know you've got a gas leak. I did that when I first connected it, and I didn't bring it to show you that today. You probably wouldn't be able to see it on camera anyway, but that's a good idea. Do a spray bottle, make sure it's plenty soapy so that if you have any leaks, it's going to bubble up and you're easily going to be able to detect it. If you do have leaks, just go ahead and unconnect everything, reconnect it. You might have a thread that didn't match. If you continue to have a problem, you might have a gasket issue or something like that, so you might want to take it back. I wouldn't recommend running it if you're seeing a gas leak. That could be very dangerous. One thing I want to mention is when you buy a brand new tank, it needs to be purged before you fill it. So there's air inside, and if you take it to a propane dealer without purging it first and they try to put propane on top of a tank full of compressed air, basically, you're going to have issues. So if you don't fill it at the place that you buy it, make sure you tell them it needs to be purged first, or there's a relief valve, maybe you can purge it yourself. Make sure you purge your propane tank the first time you used it. It doesn't have to be purged after that, but the first time you fill it with propane. So now that your filter's on, your hose is set up, your propane tank is all, you've tested it, there are no leaks, everything is safe, you've turned on your valve so that you've got gas flowing. The next step is to fire her up and give her a test. I understand this can be a little nerve-wracking at first. I'd never dealt with anything like this before. So, I held my breath a little bit when I first did this whole thing, I'm going to be honest with you. But now I'm an old pro. It's easy. Knob here, the heater buddy knob here, has off position, of course, which it's in. It's got a pilot, just like a pilot light on a stove, furnace, or anything like that. And then it's got a low setting and it's got a high setting. So once you've got it all set up, press it down and turn it to the pilot. So in order to turn the knob, you actually have to press it down. Then once it's on pilot, you hear that? There's a click. And I can hear, because this has been used already, I can actually hear the pilot going. But the first time you use it, you need to put it in the pilot position and hold it down for a full 30 seconds. Me, being the impatient person that I am, didn't have the patience for all that instruction stuff in 30 seconds, and I held it down for 5 seconds, tried to light it. Held it down for 10 seconds, tried to light it. Held it down for 10 seconds again, tried to light it. Called my friend Bob, and I'm like, your stupid heater buddy doesn't work, Bob. And he said, well, how long did you, read me the directions, how long did you hold it down? You really have to hold it down for a full 30 seconds. So once you see the pilot light, and of course you can't see it out here in the sun, but you'll actually see the little light all the way at the bottom, just a regular old pilot light. Once that's lit, still hold on to it for a few more seconds to make sure it's fully taken, and then you can move it into the low position. Once you move it into the low position, you should see, can you see this white filter here? That whole thing becomes a flame. So it all flames up and you'll know that you've had success. You can let off the button and just let it stay there on low, and the whole thing should be lit up. If it doesn't light up right away, which is the problem I had, go back to pilot, push the button, hold it, because you really need to just wait for the gas to work through the whole system. So that's what you're doing. You've got air in there, but you have no gas. So just hold the button till the pilot lights. The pilot lights, keep the button held for maybe another 5 seconds this time, and then turn it to low, and hopefully it should light. So that's the lovely and useful little heater buddy. It works really, really well. Like I said, I use it inside my RV and I stay plenty warm. And a couple other things I want to point out to really help you feel safe with this inside your rig. Number one, if I just brush against it, the safety on this thing is ridiculous. Remember I told you corporations don't want to be sued for people's deaths? These guys did a really good job of making sure this thing is safe. I brush up against it and it automatically turns off. Even when I don't want it to, I might pick it up and try to move it, it turns off. You knock it over, it turns off. So don't worry too much about having it in tight spaces, because it really has some really good safety features built in. It also has a built-in oxygen detector. So if the oxygen gets too low and it's spewing propane, it turns off automatically. So I won't die in my sleep with this thing on. Lots of people use them in very tight spaces. Yeah, it's not recommended. Having a propane tank inside your rig is not recommended. A lot of people do it. If you want to run the statistics, the incidences of injury and death are probably extremely low. You're probably much more likely to get hit by a car than to die in one of using this stuff. So this is my setup. A little bit more information that I wanted to share with you about how to set it up, how to use it, the safety features, and how to make sure when you have flammables inside your RV or van, you are staying safe, because you still have to take precautions. So I hope that you have found this helpful. Don't forget to check out the links in the description of this video for Amazon. They are my affiliate links, but feel free to go there and shop and look around, read the reviews, and learn more about these products. I really appreciate you watching. I hope you found it helpful. And this is Carolyn with Carolyn's RV Life. I will see you next time.